I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. We have special guests with us here in the studio today. This is the band Dorothy. Great to see you guys.
Thanks for having us.
So we have Jason on drums, Elliot on bass, Eli on guitar, and Owen on guitar. Glad to have you guys here. Dorothy, we're going to talk to a little bit later as well, but we wanted to sit you guys down and talk to you about what it's like being in a band on the road these days and how the band came together, how you ended up where you are, and the gear you're using. So we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to get a performance of you that we'll be putting up as a tune a little bit later as well. So we're going to keep you busy while you're here.
Uh-oh.
All right. And then you're gigging tonight. And then you got a gig tonight, something minor like that going on, right?
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the process of how this band came together.
Elliot. Elliot's our reluctant musical director.
Okay.
I had met Dorothy when she was doing the first record, like the very beginning of it, but then this time around, Linda Perry came in. She was putting a new band together for the record, and we all kind of knew each other through LA. These guys knew each other from England. I don't know how they actually got involved through kind of this whole thing. It was just like everyone was kind of friends of somebody. We knew each other. Dorothy had seen him play before.
Right.
Jason and I had been doing studio sessions with Linda for other artists and were kind of sort of around her a lot at the sort of inception of the album.
Right. And you guys were in a band called Purple Melon, right?
Cool, just a bit.
Yeah. We're kind of embarrassed at the huge success we had with that band, so we try and just play it down, to be honest. So,
Literally, some people heard us, didn't they?
yeah, literally some people used to come to the gigs. We moved to America in 2009 with two other Brits and kind of had moderate to poor success.
Right.
If you call a line around a block.
Yeah.
So is that basically the way that it works when bands are coming together for record projects and then to go out and go on a tour? Is it a lot of times, is it a direct contact that you have, somebody who knows somebody? Is that the way that it typically comes together?
Well, yeah, I know for this particular project, Linda and Dorothy wanted to put together a band. Like, they wanted the band that played on the record to be the band that would go on the road as well. And so we were a real band, and we were part of the creative process and writing and recording. So
Right.
I think that's how that one came about. Owen and I, like you said, were already working a little bit with Linda in studio, and we cut some songs with Dorothy. And yeah, I think they kind of like helped handpick some people that they thought would get on and gel well together and play well together. And
Right.
gel with Dorothy, yeah.
Right. And you've been out touring now for how long?
About a year. Well, since January.
Since January?
Yeah.
Right. And the record, 28 Days in the Valley, is out. First single, Flawless, is out, getting a ton of views on YouTube as well.
Top 10.
Top 10, yeah, exactly. Congratulations on that. That's
Top
awesome.
10 on the Billboard.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it looks like you're out for about another month, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
This tour, and then we have the Greta Van Fleet tour where we're opening for them all of September. So we're pretty much solid out till October 4th. Mm-hmm. And then there's still like some festivals in October.
Right.
So this year is
Busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
lots down the
we're
road.
looking so haggard.
Speak for
You guys
yourself.
look well rested. So let's do this. Let's have each of you give us just a little bit of your background of how you started playing and how you built your chops and kind of how you ended up where you are. Do you want to start first, Jason?
Sure, yeah. So both my parents are musicians, so I kind of always grew up playing piano, and my dad's a pretty kind of like out there, avant-garde kind of musician. He plays a lot of like African instruments and instruments from all over the world, so I kind of always had cool things just lying around the house. Would like jam a lot with him and friends, and I guess I started playing the drum kit maybe when I was about 12, so been playing for about 20 years. And I moved to London from my hometown Swindon when I was about 16, and I studied at the school there called Drum Tech, which is kind of like an MI, I'd say, like kind of like the MI in LA.
Right.
Yeah, and I went there for about 4 years. I did a music degree eventually, and I think actually Owen reached out to me.
I did.
Yeah, I remember on MySpace back then.
Right.
When I was about 21 or so to come along and try out for Purple Melon, so I ended up joining that band and did an album in the UK with this guy Paul Stacey, who's a really great producer and musician, and then that moved me to LA, and I've been in the States ever since for about 10 years.
Right.
So yeah, but mainly got my chops down in that time when I was in London. I'm studying, probably used to shed for a good 4 years there, and
Right.
that was when I went from being rubbish to okay.
It's all been downhill since then.
Yeah, now I'm back to nearly being rubbish again. So,
I don't think so.
yeah, I appreciate that.
And Elliot, why don't you tell us your story?
Mine was kind of similar to his. I started on piano. And I feel like I wanted to play piano because my uncle was a classical pianist. And then when I was 14, when I turned 14, I kept begging my parents to get me a bass guitar. And then they eventually were like, okay, fine, you can start on bass.
Right.
For my 14th birthday. Eventually went to school in LA at MI, as he speaks of it. Then that was it. It's like I did study, very similar to his. Mine's not exciting because I didn't move anywhere. I grew up in the LA area, so just kind of stayed there.
Right.
The end.
The end. It was exciting.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Eli?
Well, my story is I started when I was about 7, which you'd think I'd be a much better guitar player by now. But anyway, my mom played piano. My dad did not. He wasn't very musical at all, but I just loved playing guitar, and so I started playing in bands around town. I grew up just outside of Detroit, and then moved to LA, started playing kind of in more country Americana bands, and then with this thing, just got a call from Linda. I was playing in a band called Leroy from the North, and then just that kind of stopped for now, and then here we are. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Owen?
You are Leroy from the North, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So yeah, I grew up in like the kind of rural Essex, and I started playing when I was 10. And I started going to jams when I was like 13 or so. Blues jams, sort of local blues jams, and there are a lot of guys from the local sort of the English Guitar magazine kind of scene there. So I kind of learnt my chops from them, and I guess it's kind of all I've done since I was about 16 is just sort of done sessions around England and
Right.
Played in various bands, moved to LA with Jason. I was teaching at MI for a while, but I wasn't doing the guitar, and just kind of fell into the sideman sort of gigs out here with various people.
Right.
And the rest is history.
Right.
All
You
roads
played with
brought us
Tal
to-
Wilkenfeld for a while, right?
Yeah, I still play with her. We did a run opening for The Who last year, I think it was, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
No
sick.
doubt.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think is the characteristic of a great member of a band coming into a project like this? I mean, I think a lot of people dream of moving to LA and getting into a band and going on tour and doing records and things. What does it take to actually achieve that?
I think good work ethic, good attitude. I mean, obviously you have to be good at your instrument, but that only goes so far when you find guys like with bad attitudes, guys that have this ego or kind of unwillingness to work as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you definitely don't have to be an incredible musician. That's kind of almost the bottom of the list of the criteria.
Yeah.
But when I was teaching at MI and the students are asking me how do you kind of get into doing this sort of session thing, I should say like the most important things are you don't have to have the best gear, but you have to be able to know how to get the best out of whatever gear you do have. Everything out of it. You have to be reliable on time, but the number one thing is you just have to not be an idiot and annoy people basically.
Right.
And obviously you have to be a reasonably good player, but that's not really the most important thing. It's kind of if you're touring, you're on stage for an hour with these people, and then you're like 23 hours you're hanging out with them. So you just have to kind of
Right.
be some sort of reasonable, rational human being that can sort of hang out with other people.
Yeah, it feels as far as like the musician criteria, it's always like be a solid player, tone and feel should be in check. It's like those always seem to be where it's like, okay, if you can do those and those, I feel like that's not too much to ask for.
Right.
Yeah.
And then who do you want to spend like 2 months with basically on a vacation where you're around that same person or people all the time?
Who do you want to leave your family for?
Yeah. Even if someone's a great player, if there's someone that is really annoying but they're a great player, you're not gonna get the call.
Right.
At all.
Right.
Yeah, and if you are an idiot, then word soon spreads, and no one's going to want to work with you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's actually a fairly small industry.
Yeah.
As far as
absolutely
it
is.
goes, and everyone knows everyone kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all idiots, but luckily we're all together.
Yeah, the idiots kind of generally get thrown in one band together.
I see. That's the way it works. Right. So tell us a little bit about what goes into prepping for a tour like this. So you've finished the album project. You know you're going to go out and do the shows. how much rehearsal's involved? How do you get your gear together? What does it take to go on tour as a band?
I mean, I think we do, probably a few weeks of rehearsal, make sure everything's nice and tight. Try different pedal combinations, see what's working, how it sits with her voice, how it sits with the band levels, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when we just get a set list together, try to work on some transitions, make sure the show's nice and tight, and that there's a good flow to the set list, and we just kind of go from there.
Right?
Yeah. Kind of the gear thing is kind of an evolution. I'm still kind of...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, you switch things in and out, see what works. We have various guitars in different tunings, and, every guitar sonically is different, and so it's trying to find what works best for what song. So it's just like, tonight I'll just switch this thing around and see if that makes things better or worse.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the tour it'll be just, there.
Right.
It seems like no matter how much we rehearse, it's like you rehearse just enough so that you know that that's not going to work when you get to the stage. So it's like immediately you have guys like changing their pedals and like that's not going to work there. We instantly start changing the set list. He usually has to cover all of the transitions on drums where it's like, just make it work. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right. We definitely don't over-rehearse, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But then, we're not trying to be sort of, a super slick sort of pop act. It's it's kind of, there's a bit of grease in there.
Sure. So how important is it to learn all the parts off of the recording and take them on stage? Or do you guys take a freer approach to it?
I think that you need to know always the core of the parts. It's like if there's a riff, you're going to play the riff because then the song starts to not become the song. But then there's definitely that part where it's like, and then that in between, it's like, just do your thing. I don't really think that anyone's ever doing exactly the same thing every night. It's like you're within the framework of a song, but it's not so stiff. Like she's sometimes even changing lyrics, changing melodies, depending on maybe like somebody's taking it somewhere else musically.
Completely changing the set.
Yeah.
So I'll like switch to one guitar and be like, we're not doing that song. And I'm just waiting for her to, now we're going to play, and I just have to quickly grab the right one.
Yeah.
Right.
She definitely doesn't like things to be sort of too sort of regimented or strict. It's very
Doing
kind
toes.
Yeah, she's got a bit of James Brown in her.
Not
Literally. And we all, as I said, we all wrote and played on the record together, so it's kind of our parts that we're reinterpreting and playing. And so, I don't know, I'm sure if I was to listen back now, some of the grooves I'm playing have definitely like changed slightly from the record. Maybe I should go back over it. But I feel like they've kind of grown and maybe better now the way we're playing things anyway. Tempos change, quite often we'll end up playing things a little bit faster than the record because it just works better live.
Sure. Yeah, it's always interesting to think about that because bands always say that, right? You record the project and then you go out and tour, and by the time you finished it, the songs are maybe in a different place or they've evolved a little bit. So wouldn't it be cool to do the record after you do the tour? So you have the evolved version of it.
I can't tell. On bass, I'm playing 80 times more notes live than I probably would ever do in the studio. So I think that I would have ruined the record. At
there you go. Right. So there's that aspect of it.
It turns it into like Dorothy meets level 42.
So what about matching the sounds and the tones from the recording when you go out on stage?
Well, we used a lot of vintage gear in the studio, and some of it's a little bit fragile bringing it out on the road. But you try to find pedals and amps and guitars that are going to be durable, get you through the tour, and still have that, at least close to the sound that we got on the record. And sometimes some of the vintage gear doesn't really translate live. It can be a little more, delicate. And so we try to get stuff that's a little more road-worthy, and that'll be consistent.
Right. And we were checking out, the three of you have your pedal boards here. We were checking those out. And it's interesting you have two separate boards that you're kind of linking together. Why do you do that?
That was just a convenience thing, just for some of these kind of smaller sort of venues we're doing on this tour. It just saves, I can just have my wah and my expression pedal on just this board, and it just saves everything kind of getting scrambled, sort of, things can just be lifted off into two big chunks. It saves power supplies getting lost and cables getting yanked out and stuff like that, So it makes for just a quicker setup and breakdown for Kevin, our amazing guitar tech.
Right.
We don't like being the
Keeps all that going. Right.
Kevin's the best
Right.
tech I've ever had.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
essential, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody taking care of it. So we were talking a little bit about how important a great guitar tech is to the success of a tour and success of a show. Tell us a little bit about how you interact with a guitar tech and what they really bring to the table.
For me, it's just kind of there's just knowing everything's going to be sort of set up. I don't have to worry about stuff being set up wrong. When you have a good guitar tech, it's great. When you have a terrible guitar tech, just you always have doubt in the back of your mind about everything. Like even if nothing does go wrong, you're just kind of if
like,
something
is
does
this in tune?
go down, I'm going to have to deal with this because my tech's an idiot. But but with Kevin, that's not the case at all. He's great. He's kind of meticulous with the details. Everything's in place exactly where I would have had it. All I have to do is just plug in and just do sort of final tweaks, and it's kind of there, you know. And he's just calm under pressure, and
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's knowledgeable about everything. If you need a fix, you know, on the spot especially, I've had a lot of issues where gears failed, and before you know it, you know, he's back there fixing something, and we're, you know, up and running with the next song. So he is invaluable.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So do you have to travel with backups for everything
We
because
have a
of that?
backup amp. We do.
So with two guitar players in the band, how are you splitting up the song duties, if you will? Is one of you sticking to rhythm, one of you sticking to lead? Do you switch off? How does that work?
It's usually, you know, arm wrestling. Figure out who does the solos.
yeah.
He's much stronger, so he does a lot of. I do a lot of the
True.
rhythm and there's a lot of solos.
It's true, but it's only right hand arm wrestling. If you
Yeah.
have to do the left hand, then
Yeah.
he'd be
I know.
shredding on that.
Yeah.
Right. So did you figure that out was that as you were recording the project, or
Well,
did
we
it come up during rehearsals? Or?
I was kind of in the studio very early on in the project, and my wife was expecting a baby. So at the point where Linda was trying to put the touring band together, I had to duck out for a while. So a good friend of ours, Nick Mayberry, who's a really great LA-based guitarist, an Australian guy, he jumped in, finished the record, and did like the first 6 months or more of the touring. And then he had some kind of family problems. He had to go back to Australia, had sort of illness in the family. And basically they asked me if I could kind of jump in and take over. So I basically filled in his role and was kind of taking over what he was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sort
Right.
of
So you kind of
reluctant.
had the parts nailed down. And then
Yeah. Pretty much.
You trade off on some solos and stuff. There's times where you kind of go back and forth a bit. And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always this weird thing when people say, "Oh, you're a guitarist. What do you play, rhythm or lead?"
Right.
It's like, well, I just make music. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just a bizarre question to me, and it's just odd how many times people ask you that.
Some bands do. There's a hard division, right? This is the rhythm player. This is the lead
Yeah.
player. Others don't. It goes.
I just stand there with my volume down like that, just waiting for the solo. So it's just an odd concept to me.
you're like a kicker for a football team, aren't you?
Yeah,
Bring you in
exactly,
with, like, special
exactly, yeah.
players.
Bring him in. Right.
I just come down like on a harness from the ceiling, just suspended, just
Like
floating.
a
Like,
DH.
Right.
yeah, like,
We don't
like
do
old
that,
Richie
no.
Sambora.
Yeah.
is.
No, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
So when you have a set list that's fluid and there's some improvisation and some freedom in the songs, it's key that the drums and the bass sort of maintain the foundation and that there's good communication there. How do you guys work together to keep things going as things are changing during the course of a show?
I mean, there's definitely a decent bit of like, kind of like mouthing to each other.
Yeah.
Let's like go now, like go to that part. But it's
Right.
been pretty easy overall. It's like I don't know. It's that weird like telepathic. You just kind of keep moving together. There's never been like anything weird. It's very rare that it feels like we actually like are kind of like off the beat or something like that, where there's any kind of mess happening as far as that. Been, I think, fortunate. Maybe it helps having done the record together and stuff, but
Sure.
it's been.
Yeah, we seem to have a pretty telepathic vibe. Also, the old cymbal swell is invaluable in awkward
Yes.
silences. Just
Yeah.
give the old hi-hat a rattle,
Right.
like the
That's
pig
the
slide.
technique.
look around, yeah, a little
It is
swell
like
on
the
the
pig slide.
cymbals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 So Elliot, are you keying off the kick drum when you're locking in, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so I have in-ears with the set, which helps a lot because then I can add his hi-hat as well and, you know, really make sure, and having our sound guy is able to add a little mic for the ride too. So at all times I kind of have an idea of where we are, which helps because there's some really quiet moments where all of a sudden the chord changes are like maybe just dictated by the bass all of a sudden. So, and all I hear is just lightly, no kicks. So it's like, all right,
Right.
it could go horribly wrong or right.
Right.
The
Yeah.
coolest stuff always happens when stuff is on the verge of going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
it's the more exciting part.
But that does bring up the importance of having a great monitor mix, whether you're doing in-ears
Yes.
or,
Yeah,
or
sure.
stage monitors, whatever,
Yeah.
to keep things alive.
Another very important person in the team.
Right.
Eli's the only guy in the band that isn't on ears.
Yeah.
He's old school.
I prefer earplugs, maybe.
Right.
He plugs and wedges.
Yeah,
Because of where he
wedges.
stands, though, he can slam the mix just as loud
Yeah,
as he
Yeah.
it's great. I'm
wants.
the only one with wedges, so
Yeah.
it's just right there.
But there's still live amps on stage. It's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
with the in-ears.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
You have to have the air behind you.
Right. Right. So what's in your ears then? What do you mentioned kick drum and hi-hat?
I have absolutely everything, like
Okay.
down to even everybody else's backup vocals. You know, it's obviously leaning towards a bass player's mix for me, where it's like slightly more bass, slightly more of my voice. You know, but then I do have the entire drum kit because it wouldn't be fun to all of a sudden not hear, like if he does a fill or something like that. It's like all you
Sure.
hear is kick, snare, hi-hat. It's not, yeah.
Right. Right.
I feel like people have less of me always in their ears, though. I'm always the least in somebody's mix is the bass.
You can
do you
feel
Well,
it.
we get a lot of you from the stage volume
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Pretty loud in my mix.
That's nice.
For me, I like to have my
Just
guitar
wanted to, you know,
loud in my mix, obviously, just so I can hear myself. But also because if I'm too quiet, then my kind of dynamic range is
Yeah.
kind of, I'll just be playing wide open just to hear myself the whole time. Whereas if I'm kind of slightly louder than you'd have a guitar in a regular sort of record mix,
Right.
then I can wind the volume down on my guitar and still hear myself. And it's that's one of the problems with so many bands is just everyone just plays
Yeah, at 10.
at 10 or
Right.
or 11, of course.
Right.
Just
Right.
the whole time, And no matter how good you are, it's just fatiguing.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So Eli, given that you're using a live monitor, stage monitor, do you have the full mix in that monitor, or are you working mainly off of stage?
I'm kind of a similar situation, just so I can hear a little bit more of the touch of the guitar. I'll have sort of the guitar up a little bit, my vocals up a little bit, and then just a little bit of sort of everybody else.
Mhm.
And that seems to get me through the show. So
We're all singing as well.
Yeah, I was going to mention that all four of you sing, so
yeah,
it's
so
a,
you need
it's a
to
big
hear the
vocal
harmonies.
Yeah.
kind of thing, right? How essential is that to getting a gig, being able to sing?
I think it really helps.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's
Really
like
helps.
a huge deciding factor. I think, obviously, being really good looking and
That's number one, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff is obviously. But I don't know anything about that. But yeah, I think being able to have solid backing vocals and is pretty important.
I think obviously it improves your all-round musicianship, being able to sit and
Definitely.
sing. And even if you're a bad singer, just still trying to sort of
Just
sing.
hitting the notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just think, if you're kind of an aspiring kind of, you're trying to make it as a musician, then it's just something you should just jump into, and, it's another string to your bow. And I think you're more like, you're obviously sort of broadens the amount of gigs you're going to get hired for.
Right.
And even if you don't get called to sing on the gig, I think an MD who knows you do sing is probably going to be like, okay, this person's actually a broader musician rather than just a guitarist, or just they can see beyond the instrument they're playing, see the big picture sort of thing.
Right. Right.
Nice added value.
Yeah.
It always feels like when somebody can kind of sing a little bit too, they're a different type of musician where, not to say that people who don't sing don't do this, but if you can sing even a little bit, you usually are thinking more song-oriented. You're not just kind of playing
Yeah, parts.
just to play parts. You're just like, here's connecting the dots. If I get from here to here, you're not even thinking that way.
Well, I always think there's a difference between, you can be for me personally, I think there are guitarists that I wouldn't call musicians, you know what I mean? And,
Right.
just because you're a guitarist doesn't necessarily mean you're a musician. I think being a musician is a broader thing than, or just a specific instrument. You can get people that just are obsessed with their one thing and it bears no relevance to actually the grand scheme of making music or being a musician. It's just an activity that they're trying to become the best at,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
the athleticism.
Right.
I think it's
Yeah.
strange if a
Yeah.
musician is just like, I don't sing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't understand how you can be a professional musician and not be able to sing in tune. Anyway, it's like Owen was saying, you don't have to be an incredible singer, but as long as you can like get a part down. So I think it's kind of like a stubborn thing that some people...
At least trying towards it,
Yeah.
too. I feel like it's like, I wouldn't consider myself like a singer, but constantly trying to be better at it, too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just say, no, I don't sing.
For me, the first
I'll
kind
try.
of 7, 8 years of playing, I started playing when I was so young, and it was like this, I was just remember being incredibly bored, and I suddenly got this guitar, and I locked myself in my bedroom for just like 8 years just playing. And it wasn't, and I was just, you know, playing guitar, I wasn't necessarily playing music. And then there became a certain point in my career where all of a sudden I was like, wow, being a guitarist is actually pretty embarrassing. It's pretty tragic. What I want to be as a musician, that's the coolest thing, because it kind of is a, you know, you can contribute to something, you know, and you know, it's kind of whatever the instrument we're on is kind of irrelevant. We're all just trying to do the same thing now. We just are doing it with different instruments. We're not, you know,
Right.
we're just trying to communicate something.
Right.
It kind of transcends the instrument now.
And that carried over also to, as you were talking about, contributing to the actual writing and the production on the recording as well. Talk a little bit about that. What did each of you bring to that process?
I think initially we'd all kind of gotten together for a good few weeks before we went in the studio in the first place and just had time to play and jam together. And so we came up with quite a few ideas then that we could bring to the table when we eventually started tracking. And then, I don't know, it was a combination of, I think Linda already had some songs in mind, and Dorothy also, and they'd also spent some time writing together. So I think we all kind of brought in ideas and eventually just tried a lot of things. And most songs I feel like ended up kind of making it. There weren't a lot of like kind of like wasted days where we tracked and ended up ditching a song because it wasn't really happening. Most songs were kind of like, came in the studio and pretty much wrapped up each song each day.
Right.
Maybe with an additional
moved pretty
day
quick.
of overdubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I saw something where the name of the album is 28 Days in the
yeah.
Valley, and it was 28 days of recording that went into making the project.
It was, we were clicking along, so.
Right, yeah. So was that completed, mixed, and everything within those 28 days?
The mix in the mastering, I think, would probably a little bit after.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
imagine.
I think
Right,
so.
right. That's still moving fast.
Yeah, from when the tracking started, it was pretty much a month. And it went, as I said, it was pretty much like a song.
A day,
A song
yeah.
or so a day with an additional, day of overdubs.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of just tracking as a band together as well.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
definitely.
that was cool.
It was definitely very live.
Yeah.
The tracking,
Yeah.
minus the obvious like overdubs and
Sure.
if there's an additional guitar part or something like that or shake or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
for better or worse, it'd be like, all right, even down to speaking of like rhythm section stuff. It's like, no, you guys have to do something together there. Like if he's doing something, you should kind of go with him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fun to do it that way.
Yeah, no
Don't
doubt.
really get
It's
to do
kind
that
of how
often.
it's kind of how our kind of heroes did it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
And it's cool you're
doesn't
saying
happen
like,
anymore.
you could tour the album and then record it, or you could, come back to it 10 years later and record it again, but it's kind of, it's just a moment in time that's captured, and it's something,
Yeah.
whether it's, flawed or not, it's kind of real, and it's of that moment, and it's captured and done, and it's just, on
Right.
to the next one sort of thing,
Sure.
If you don't make it so precious.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, it's just it's just that's where we were at that time, and this is it,
Right.
you know.
So you mentioned Greta Van Fleet, and you'll be doing some more shows with them. I think the two bands, are kind of driving that resurgence in the rock band rise again of that. Talk a little bit about that. What do you think is driving that, the popularity of that style, and what you guys are bringing to that?
I think that they're doing really great things in terms of, it just seems like there hasn't been that in a little while, and I think it's refreshing. I think people are checking it out. When we've been seeing sort of the crowds there, it's been really young people. I mean, the age range is it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people are checking it out and just seeing what this is, and their shows have been incredible. They've been awesome.
Right.
I think Dorothy's kind of had such a strong kind of iconic look as well.
Yeah.
And then when these young kids see her, they're like, oh my God,
Right.
what is it? Who is this person? And what is this outrageously kind of loud, distorted guitar slam him in the face? What is this?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a fresh sound
Yeah.
to people now, which is funny because it's obviously reminiscent of like music from the 70s, 60s and 70s and 80s, but it's like, I don't know, to a lot of like younger people, maybe this is like kind of a new thing that they haven't heard that much
It's
of.
their
'cause-
first, yeah.
Yeah, it's strange when you see the little kids. It's like to them, it's like maybe I don't know. Maybe it seems like we're reinventing the wheel. It's like we're not. We're doing what we loved and grew up on. And everything. It's
Yeah.
still just straight up rock music.
Greta has like the really young crowd, the
Yeah.
older crowd, but the young kids that are there, they're just kind of screaming at them like they're
Yeah.
NSYNC or something,
Right.
like full on like screaming like they're sort of a boy band,
Right.
and it's the last show we did, we were saying it's strange because some of the Greta fans were there. We could see the T-shirts and they were a real young crowd.
I think someone said the crowd could have been like ages 8 to 80 or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like, which
And
is
they were screaming
really
too,
cool.
and I was thinking, well, this is obviously, this is maybe Greta's the only kind of rock and roll band they've seen, and they've learned that this is what you do at a rock concert. It's like, wow, this
Yeah.
is kind of
Right.
we
Yeah,
scream, and they were just like screaming for us, weren't they? It's like,
Yeah.
this is cool. This
Every
is like
time
really
he took
cool.
a guitar solo, just
Yeah.
screamed.
I think it also was really loud and it was hurting some of their ears.
Probably that as well. Yeah, it's like pain. Yeah.
I think it's great to see the return of live musicians on stage playing
Yeah.
music and
Yeah.
not just playing parts, but actually playing a show on stage and improvising a bit. And bringing
Yeah,
that
there's
to it.
definitely that. There's definitely that kind. There are musical conversations that are had that
Right.
are different every night.
Yeah.
for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Totally.
That's awesome.
I think you can really come away and feel like, wow, that felt like a really great show for me, or I don't know, I didn't quite pull off the things I wanted to go for on that gig, because we do kind of play pretty open and play
Yeah.
on the edge sometimes of maybe messing up, but
Yeah,
also
the-
doing something awesome, instead of just playing exactly the same gig every single night, where it's hard to even know whether it was a particularly good gig or not,
Yeah, the emphasis definitely isn't. Here's, we're going to feed you 3-minute chunks of plastic cheese. It's like, here's a 3-minute song, here's a 3-minute song, here's a 3-minute song.
Yeah.
The emphasis isn't kind of force feeding people the songs. It's just an overall vibe that we're kind of just trying to project.
We even added like parts. There was a show that we did at Summerfest in Milwaukee recently, where we finished a song, and then I just kind of decided to go into this weird sort of like Zeppelin-y, like,
straight psychedelic.
yeah, we
moment.
were
Yeah.
kind of, no one was playing in time with each other, and
Yeah.
then that kind of led Dorothy on to start doing some pretty cool experimental stuff. And
Yeah, it's like
that
we just
became-
kind of let it go. It
Yeah.
was like, this is great.
Well, now it's part of the thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like we all just kind of like came in and we're like, well, this is kind of cool. This is weird.
Yeah, it's
Let's keep this
unpredictable
going.
for us.
Yeah.
With Dorothy, we never know what we're going to get,
Yeah.
which kind of leads us to react to,
Yeah.
the crowd won't know what's
Oh, it's
going to
gotta be
happen
fun.
either. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It's
leave
great.
the conversation it's just open.
Right.
Just see what happens.
And then
most
that's
of the
where
time.
it kind of leads back again to sort of, the importance of being a musician rather than an instrumentalist,
Yeah.
because it becomes a communicative thing where it's, you react to someone. It's a back and forth thing, and it's not just I know these things and I've practiced these things and I'm going to use them tonight, regardless of how relevant they are to the set I'm playing in.
Right. So I'll wrap up by saying we were talking earlier, and you guys are Sweetwater customers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were even talking about your sales engineer,
Yeah, good old Paul Allen.
right?
Right, Paul?
You've got a big box of chocolates for him, haven't you? You're going to drop by and see him.
I do. Every Halloween, I have a giant box of candy that I always get in my orders.
Nice.
So that's sorts out the trick or treating. And
That's great.
the fiance is always
Happy to
slightly
see it.
angry when a Sweetwater package turned up. And I tell you what, the old financing though, when you do the 36 and 40, that was my entire studio was built out of the
Nice.
Financing.
old financing here. Yeah, just great.
Right. That's a great option.
Gotta be honest, part of me feels like I take advantage of it where it's like free shipping. You're like, well, I'm gonna buy this adapter cable. It's like $3. Free shipping. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
gotta cost more, like that amount of money just to ship it here. But
Yeah,
It is-
it all
it-
balances out.
Yeah.
It is an exciting time, I tell you what.
Yeah.
I love it. From the minute that order goes in, I'm always just watching the tracking.
just waiting.
Getting so angry if I've missed, something's come up and I got a session, I missed the delivery.
Right.
I have to get the neighbour to run
Of course,
over.
it's weird that now we're kind of behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Yes. Now you've
We're
seen
inside.
behind
Yeah,
the
the
scenes.
Yeah.
We're, in
factory.
Wayne, we're in Wayne's basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get you guys a tour and show you the whole place. and we'll get you
wait.
down the
if
slide.
we were to order
Got it.
something
Yeah.
now, would we have to wait for the shipment still?
And we could probably arrange for you to get it here. If
Like,
you
could
want.
we have the
Could
delivery
you
just
ship
come
it
right?
to the bus?
I bet we could arrange that.
Cool.
I bet we could make that
I
happen.
wonder if it's going to be as exciting for me next time I order something now as well. Now I've
I bet you will be. Probably more.
so.
maybe more because I can visualize.
Yeah.
where
You have the
package-
connection, right?
Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a little
Guys,
depth.
thanks so much for coming in today. We appreciate you taking time to sit down with us. I know you got a gig this afternoon, or a sound check this afternoon, and then a
Yeah.
gig this evening as well. So enjoy that, and good luck on the rest of the tour. Congratulations on the success of the album. We're just glad to have you here.
Thanks
you.
very
Thanks
much.
for having us.
Yeah, thanks
Jason,
for
I'll
having
shake your
us.
hand. I won't reach across.
Yeah.
We'll wave because you guys are way over there. Elliot, Eli, and Owen.
Cheers.
Jason, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks very much.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
And thank you for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.
Slipping into some kind of feeling, got me believing, maybe